Hello. So today I want to tackle a topic that's come to me via a couple of investors that have a decent pile of money and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And this really goes under the guidelines of private money, and we'll talk about the definition and a couple of different programs here in a minute. But the whole idea here is full-time employees, which is the really the part of the market I'm targeting with this particular channel, often have a constraint, and that's obviously time, right? They don't have the time to do the due diligence, do the homework, do all these other things. So they're often offered and you know promised great things by folks who have time but don't have money. So it's that symbiotic relationship, right? You have money, don't have time. They have time and don't have money. And that's where this notion of private money comes from, sometimes referred to by others as hard money and all of that. So I want to go through this, give you some examples that I've been offered over the years, and really make sure you appreciate the risk uh, in a lot of these, because I think a lot of you sort of see the upside and don't see the downside, and I'm going to try to help you with that. So as always, we'll go through the goals. So first, we're going to define what it is, why it is a great option for some, and obviously, maybe why it's not a great option for others. And then we're going to actually highlight some programs that I've seen just to make sure that we can walk you through this, because these private money programs really come in a couple of different flavors, and I want to make sure you appreciate what is really being offered you from my perspective. So it's when an individual basically wants to be the bank on a real estate transaction, right? You can obviously do private money on lots of different things. I'm going to focus on real estate given this channel and where my experience lies. Well, you could, in theory, loan money, take first position, get a trust deed and a note, and basically you're getting the mortgage payment from the lender. You can decide on the interest rate, the term. There are lots of rules, but in theory, you should charge higher than a bank. You might want a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year term. Whatever you work out with that particular borrower is really at your disposal. And you can get pretty creative on some of these. I would tell you would get a note and a trust deed recording your position. Ideally, I would never recommend anybody even think about doing private money on a second. That's just ridiculous. If you're going to do this, you must be in first position, nobody else ahead of you. You want to make sure you have the least amount of risk, and private money second in today's market is really any market, but certainly this market's not a great idea. Again, you're going to be getting an interest rate, which is what really excites, or you should be getting an interest rate. I guess you don't have to, but you should getting a monthly check for lending. I guess it's possible you might want to do yearly or quarterly or whatever, but those are up for you to work out with your borrower. I would say in today's market, which is very flip heavy, is typically short terms. 6 months to 2 years is kind of what I've seen out there. 4 or 5 years ago, when the market was at its depression, it wasn't uncommon to do longer terms, because it wasn't a flip market. The buyers which I was one of them, wanted to hold these things as rentals. So they weren't interested in short term. They wanted long term, 5, 10, 30-year loans, which again, you typically structure the private money based on the cycle, the part of the real estate cycle, and today is very flip heavy. So I don't think I would look at doing a flip with more than 2 years, but it's certainly possible. It's again up to you. Typically, private money is seeked or gone after when, again, people have time but don't have their own cash. So they quote unquote find a great deal and they want to come to you and borrow a lot of money or a big percentage of it. And again, we're going to go through some options now, and I'm doing this to hopefully protect you. At least, it'll make me feel better. So here's the first program I've heard of. So some buyer somewhere, often in another state for some reason, buys a distressed property. Pick a number, right? It's cheap. It's Tennessee. It's Michigan. It's somewhere, and it's $30,000 to $50,000. And oh, by the way, the buyer needs 20 to 30 grand of repairs, right? Make ready, whatever you want to call it, remodel, whatever, right? So the buyer believes future value is 100K. I often don't know where these 100K or future values come from. but whatever. This is the story they're telling you, right? So let's just take the low end, right? They bought it for 30, they need 20, so they're in it for 50. And oh, by the way, there's this future value of $100,000, right? So you supposedly have 50K in profit there, if you will. Oh, but here's the catch, right? Remember what I told you, the buyer has time but no money. The buyer needs 100% of the purchase price, so in this case, the 30 grand, and the repair cost. So, they want not only the purchase price, but also the repairs. Oh, but by the way, they're going to give you 10%. Right? So whether it's 60K or 50K or whatever, they're basically coming to you going, hey, I got a great deal. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to pay you 10% interest, which sounds great, but they're going to borrow more than the purchase price. They're going to borrow all of the repair money. And oh, by the way, you're going to get a trust deed on the house for 60 grand, as it says in this bullet, when the house was only 30 grand. I think that's crazy. So again, just me, my opinion. I think these models are way too risky. Think about it. You lend 60K on a property that was bought for 30. When does that make sense? When would a bank do that? A bank would never do that, right? The whole idea is to have collateral that you have security in, and to think that anybody has the gumption to ask for you to loan 60K on a house they bought for 30. I mean, they could just walk away and never pay you a payment, and they've doubled their money. I mean, why would you do that? You have no idea of knowing what the 60K is used for. I mean, they could go smoke, snort cocaine or buy a speedboat or whatever, and all they have to do is give you back this 30K junker property. And oh, by the way, you got to go through the whole foreclosure and all of that. I mean, come on. Don't fall for that, in my opinion. Here's another one, a little bit different. So again, same idea. Buyer finds a house and they want to flip it. Locks down a good price, whatever good means in this case. No, by the way, they're maybe prepared and give you a budget for make ready, right? Or repairs or remodel, whatever you want to call it. In this case, same deal, right? Buyer has no cash. But hey, they want to offer you, the big money guy or big money person, 50-50 on the profit. Sounds pretty good, right? You come in and you're going to get 50% of the profit and not have to do any of the work. Guess what? Way too risky. Again, the borrower, the person who found this house, has no skin in the game. Zero. That's crazy to me. Why would that be okay? And you, the lender, you're getting some promise of this magical 50% and really have no control. It could take twice as long. Budget could explode. Who knows what could happen? And you've got probably a decent chunk of capital tied up, and you're not getting, that's a huge opportunity cost. And again, this buyer has zero risk. These are problems to me, and I'm disappointed when I hear folks who have full-time jobs get offered these programs and they jump in. So here are some of the problems, right? The lender, the person who finds the deal, the lender, you're taking too much risk. And I would argue you're taking all the risk, let alone too much risk. And you're not only taking all the risk, you have zero control and almost no protection. Right? Sure, you have a grant deed, but you have a grant deed on a junker property that's worth less than the grant deed. Why should that be okay? Also, you're betting on somebody's promises of future good. Even if you can sort of self-validate with Realtor or Zillow or Trulia or whatever, I don't bet on the futures, right? That's, have we not learned anything? Real estate cycles turn, and even if the best flip takes 6 months, it could be a totally different market in 6 months. I see too many ways. I see too much downside. I have a rule that I've had for most of my adult life, which is I try to protect the downside, and I'm always thinking about the downside, and then the upside takes care of itself. I think most people get enamored with the upside and forget to protect the downside. So it's just not okay. So if I were going to offer a program to friends and family, and again, I would only offer this to friends and family, these are the things that I would be putting together in this kind of market. I would want the lender, right? My mom, right? My sister, whoever. I would want them to get a monthly check. First off, I would want them to get them, if I borrowed 100 grand from my mom, I'd want to send her a check every month, right? That's just the start. Also, in this flip heavy market, I would, in this case, my mom, I would like to give her part of the profit, right? And a double digit part of the profit, so that not only is she getting the monthly action, but I want to give her part of the upside, right? To be rewarded for being my partner in this case. The other thing I believe, because again, it's my mom in this example, is I'm going to fund all of the make ready cost, ensuring I take a decent percentage of the risk. So earlier we talked about a house bought for 30 that needed 20K in repairs. So in this case, just to go back to an earlier story, I would have my mom lend me $30,000 for the purchase price. And then I would fund all of the $20,000 of the repair costs. I don't want my mom to lend me the 50 grand. I want her to lend me just the 30. And yes, I know this goes against the grain of all these other programs and all of that, but again, I don't care. I'm trying to protect the lender, my mom in this case, from any risk. Now, is it protecting her from everything? No. It's certainly protecting her a lot better than those other programs, because I'm essentially taking the first $20,000, which in this case is almost 40% of the risk, right? So the property, all my repairs would have to reduce value before she gets impacted. So it's certainly not likely, not even probable, but is it in the realm of possibilities that something happens? Sure. But in this case, I lose money first, and in this case, my mom would lose money second. Again, I would only let my mother, in this case, loan me the funds for the purchase price, and the purchase price only. I would never ask her to fund repairs. That's on me. My job of doing the flip is to fund the repairs. I manage the project. I run the flip. I'm doing the costs. I'm doing all of this. So that should be my money. I shouldn't be risking somebody else's money for something I'm being paid to do and project manage and run and all of that. So it's very different than everything else. This obviously only works when the borrower, in this case me, has a pile of my own cash, right? This doesn't work if I'm broke and I have no money. And frankly, again, I would tell you, you'd want to lend to people who have their own cash in their reserves and all of these things, so that when stuff breaks or stuff goes sideways in real estate, they have other options than giving you back a junk of property that you don't want. That's why you need to work with, that's why I would ask my mom to work with me, because I have my own reserves, and I would do everything I could under the sun to make sure she doesn't lose anything. And again, if you choose to offer this, why would I choose to offer this? Well, it's because maybe I want to continue to stay in the market, right? When I put this program together for my mom, it doesn't allow me to go out and continually buy 20 transactions a month, because I'm funding all the make ready or the repairs, right? But it certainly allows me to double what I could do if I was just using my own cash. And that's about the right speed for, a single individual, right? I can do 2 to 3 a month, and still fund the make ready costs and then flip them, whenever it's done. It certainly doesn't allow me to do, 12, because I don't have enough make ready costs. But, the ability to do 2x what you could is why I would do a program like this, and why I would borrow the purchase price from my mother in this example. So again, just a couple of deals. There's lots of rules around this. Friends and family, accredited investors. We'll give you a definition of accredited investors. You must have a substantive relationship, right? You've really got to know, right? It's not somebody you just met on the internet, somebody watched a video, something like that. You've got to know the person, and have I think it's called good faith, or a reason to believe that they're an accredited investor. And again, we'll give you that definition in a minute. But these things, you can't go advertise, you can't do all these other things that you see out there, because they want to protect you around all these regulations. So I copied this off Wikipedia. I believe it's correct, but again, Wikipedia was the source. So in the U.S., you're an accredited investor if you have a net worth over $1 million, excluding your primary residence, or you have an income of at least $200,000 each of the last 2 years, or $300,000 combined if you're a married couple, and have the expectation of doing that again this year. So, again, for full-time employees, the folks I'm talking to, certainly most of the sales teams I'm working with, you likely qualify for this. But realize, there are rules and regulations out there, and probably a lot of private money guys don't follow the rules, but I am certainly do my best to always do that, because again, I believe reputation is paramount in this game. And anyway, so again, I wanted to put this video together because I think private money is great. I've used it in the past and will likely use it in the future. But there are some rules, and more importantly, I don't want you to be taken advantage of. I think you work very hard for what you have, and I don't want you to be enamored by some promises of future good and nice interest rates and that silliness when all I see is risk. If you have any questions, as always, you know how to get a hold of me. Have a great day.